My guest this Women's Month series is reporter, journalist at News 24, a former colleague of mine, I must say. You see her normally on the other side reporting about other people, but this time she is the guest, and not many people get to say this. Tshidi Madia, one of my favorite reporters. Thank you for joining me.
Hello, Professor. How are you?
I've got to tell you, I mean, your work ethic is unmatched. Just how you are dogged when you pursue a story. What does it take to make a living following other people's affairs like you do?
It's actually a little bit nonsensical. I always say to people that they don't know how hard it is, to probe and you get into people's spaces, But there's a little bit of power that comes, I think, with being in the media, that I imagine that if I was in political circles serving a politician, I wouldn't have, So there's power in my opinions and my views and how I structure stories. It's interesting. It can be very exhausting, but
Right.
yeah, you wanna tell the story. So I don't know. I suppose what I'm just used to.
Yeah. Is it true that you people just never switch off? Because I've been in the media a long time, but I've never been a reporter. Is it true that you reporters or journalists just never switch off?
It's very difficult to switch off. But I think that the more you are in, the longer you stay in the industry, like I'm at a point where when I decide to switch off, I absolutely do it. So I have days where I say, not interested. So I won't watch news bulletins. I'd rather watch cartoons that day. I'll listen to music. I'll garden. I will go out and about. I will have days where I make a decision to switch off. Those days I delete my Twitter apps. I won't look at anything to do with the media. A lot of WhatsApps, because the other thing about being a journalist is the communication is endless. So people have stories to tell, want help in one way or another. And on specific days, I just ignore. And then the next day, if I'm back in the game, I'll say, hi. So I see yesterday you wanted to talk to me about this issue or that issue. Let me see if I can channel it to someone else or if it's something I can handle. So we are learning to switch off. It's important to switch off. For our own mental health and well-being, it's critical that journalists learn to switch off. So we're doing it.
But in the background, I see a picture. Is that Jimi Hendrix? How do you switch off and then be with Jimi Hendrix?
Because that's my vibe. So it's such a weird thing because people say I'm so loud and so extroverted publicly that the assumption is that that's who I am as a person. I'm actually I'm quite a recluse, if you may. So I like my own space. I fight with my friends, even outside of COVID, when they try and come hang out. And then I let them hang out. And a specific time of day, I'm like, everybody must leave. I have the same approach towards my partner, towards my family. I'm very finicky about space. Jimi brings me peace, man. I love everything that was Jimi Hendrix and what he represented. So yeah, that's the other side of me.
The side of you that you say is extroverted, I hear that a lot from people in the entertainment and media industry. Does that mean reporting is an escape for you, though?
I don't know if I'll see it as an escape, but it's become such a part and parcel of who I am that moving away from reporting, remember you spoke earlier about when do we ever disengage, that I think that in my peaceful space, when I'm being myself, I disengage the media, I disengage the personality, supposedly. People can be extroverted introverts. My therapist tells me that I'm exactly that. So I have many facets. So I would never call it an escape. I think it's also who I am. If I'm in the room, I won't be quiet. I'd love to be a wallflower. I can't be. I've never been able to be a wallflower. So I think it's just another part of who I am as a person.
But how long ago did you know that you were going to be Tshidi Madia, the dogged reporter who just doesn't give up on his story?
Geez, I don't know if I still define myself as Tshidi Madia, a dogged reporter. I actually didn't want to go into journalism all along. I think if you find my late mom would tell you how much of a joke it was. And I said, so, you know what, I'm actually going to study journalism. I'd made that decision in my matric year at the very end after applying to design school and being accepted in design school because I used to draw. I'm from a family of people who are really good with pen and pencil. So the understanding was always that I was always going to go in that direction because that's what I'd shown to be passionate about the most all my life. I'd always had a desire for current affairs and and politics specifically, because I was surrounded by people who lived, breathed politics. And from childhood, I'd always been engaged in conversations around politics, in current affairs. I think when you're a Black child born in the 80s, you can't escape what was happening, you know. I always find it strange when I speak to my white counterparts, my white friends, and they speak about how they didn't get it until maybe varsity. And we couldn't escape it because that was our parents' reality. They were confronted by what was happening in the country on a day-to-day basis. So I've always had an interest, and I've always had an opinion, by the way, on what was happening and was shaping my world from childhood. But what we always thought was I was going to go into design, because that was something that I was completely passionate and enamored with. But at the very end, and I remember saying to them, you know, I'm going to go give it a go. Let's see if maybe if I apply for it and I'll get accepted, then maybe that's what I'll do. And so I then made that decision. And then even when coming into journalism, I wasn't sure which way I wanted to go. I knew I loved radio, which is kind of explains a lot about my career, because I started in radio, from campus radio to Eyewitness News, and doing even online and writing, then doing features journalism there, to Power FM, to now at News 24, where I work in journalism, in politics specifically. I think it's always kind of been there, but it wasn't there. So I don't define myself according to things I do. I don't know. I don't.
No, for sure. But this is Women's Month as we wrap up. Your struggles as a woman, what are you finding yourself still stressing about, more or less on the same level that the women in 1956 would have been stressing about?
I think we're still fighting for equality, you know. You still argue equality while you're told about equity. And I don't think the two are the same. So we're still fighting to be on equal footing. And I think that the struggles for us in that level, it found expression through things like pay gap, find expression through things like seniority in work environments, you know. They found expression for us now, South African women in 2020, is that you don't feel safe. You know, I live in a very quiet, remote area. And the one day I didn't walk with people, I was taking a stroll by myself, coming back home, I didn't feel safe because somebody was attempted to mug me. The day-to-day issues that confront us where we don't feel safe in our own communities still is a problem. So waging a war to still be seen really is reminiscent of what they went through so many years ago. We're still fighting that battle. And I think we have a long way to go still. But what I love is their spirit of defiance lives in us. I identify that in us every day. What I also love about the South African experience now, as far as women are concerned, is we're tired of platitudes, and we're not keeping quiet about being tired, you know. I try to observe what Women's Month was like, Women's Day rather, this week, and it really was muted. You might argue because we are separated and living in a virtual world because of the pandemic, but truth be told is that we are tired of people paying lip service to the women agenda, to the gender question, and not doing nearly enough. So I think it was one of those days where I disengaged completely. I didn't find that I would be happy listening to any of the male political leaders saying anything, so I didn't engage them. I didn't pay attention to them. I didn't listen to any of them. I didn't feel that anyone would say anything that changes my world in any way.
All right, Tshidi Madia, thank you very much. It was good to have you here.
Thank you, Brother Victor. Cheers.